Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel APM Guide. As a part of our APM gestures using W3C Mobile Gestures API, in this video we'll understand what exactly the element ID, okay, and we'll understand this line of code, why we need to cache this element with the remote web element, and we'll understand the importance of the getId method, okay. And as you know, the element ID is a mandatory argument when we are using the W3C Mobile Gestures API. Okay, and as for Android, we have 9 W3C Mobile Gestures commands. Okay, by using these commands, we can perform the gestures on the Android mobiles. Okay, and this is a sample code where we are using this element ID as a key and we are providing the value here. Okay, so we'll understand what exactly this line of code talks about. Okay, and in this video we'll cover these three scenarios, that is what is element ID, check whether element ID is based upon the session or not, that is, so basically what happened, the element ID will create based upon the session. Okay, when the session expires, the element ID will be destroyed, and if the new session is created, the element ID once again created. Okay, and the third scenario is the check the element ID in the APM inspector. Okay, these are three scenarios we are covering in this video. Okay, so coming back to our PPT here. Okay, so we'll go first, we'll understand what exactly the element ID. Okay, see what is the element ID. See, element ID is not a element. Okay, and it is not even the locator ID, that is, the element ID is not at all a element and it is not even the locator ID. So what exactly it is? It is a random hexadecimal code. Okay, this is nothing but element ID is nothing but it is random hexadecimal code representing the element in the session returned by the findElement API. Okay, the findElement API will return the element in the representing it in the random hexadecimal code. Okay, we'll see what exactly the random hexadecimal, how it look like, okay, in our video. Okay, please note that till 1.Appium version 1.21.0, the element ID is referred as a element. Okay, after this version it is known as the element ID. Okay, and how to get this element ID? Okay, so this can be obtained with the method called getId on the element. Okay, and we'll see what exactly this getId method. Okay, what is getId method? So getId method is the method, okay, is one of the method under the remote web element class. Okay, so getId method is nothing but is one of the method in the remote web element class. Okay, and this, if we are using this getId method, its return type is a string. Okay, return type is a string, and this is the usage, how we can able to use this method. It is the element, we need to cache this element in the to the remote web element to get this, to use this getId method. Okay, so all these things we are using the, we write the code, I will understand in depth. Okay, so now go to the Eclipse. So here we create a class and we name this class as element id demo. Okay, so I created a class and named it as a element id demo. Okay, and now we will copy the setup and tear down methods from the sample class so that we can save the time. Okay, and do the necessary changes. Remove this class which is not needed and remove this package name and just save the, rename the sample class to the element id demo. Okay, that's it. So now our setup method and tear down methods are ready. Okay, in our setup method I have used the simple capabilities, that is the platform name, automation name and device name of this emulator. Okay, and for this I am using the example, I want to tap on this view. Okay, while performing the tap gesture on this view, we'll understand what exactly the element ID. Okay, so first of all we need to tap on this view. Okay, so tap on views. Okay, on views. Okay, now we need to write the code. Okay, so we need to write a driver. So we need to cache this driver. So we need to cache this driver with the Java script executor. Okay, we are casting with JavaScript executor, and we get the method called execute script method. Okay, and for tapping we have to give the key, that is a command, that is the mobile colon click gesture. So regarding this tap gesture already we discussed it, and we have the video in our YouTube channel. I place icon. Okay, just click on and understand how exactly we need to create the code for the tap gesture. Okay, so coming back here, so we are given the key here and we need to provide the value. Okay, for this one we have to give the immutable map of, so we have to use the immutable map of key value I need to provide. Okay, so as we are talking about the element ID, okay, we need to fetch the element ID details, element details for these views. Okay, so I have opened the Appium inspector and I start a session by using simple capability which I have saved. Okay, so I am using the simple capabilities, that is the platform name and automation name. Okay, before starting the session I need to run the Appium server. So my Appium server is running. Yeah, so just now I click on the start session. So I given the simple capabilities, the platform name and automation name. So now I need to get the strategy and the selector for these views, that is the locator value. Okay, just place on this one. So this is the accessibility ID and this is the selector value. Okay, just go back to our Eclipse and say driver dot find element appium by dot is accessibility ID, right? Just give the accessibility ID and provide the selector value here. Okay, that's it. And this we need to pass to the element. We say as element, and the element type is the web element. That's it. So import this one, import web element. Yes. Okay, and I need to pass this element here. So the for key, when you are using the element based upon the tap on the base upon the element ID, we need to give the key as element ID, that is a key, and we need to provide the value here. Okay, that is the element. For if I say I need to get ID method, I not get ID method directly on the element, so I need to cache this element with the remote web element. Okay, to get the get ID method, so remote web element. And now if I say dot get ID method, I'll get it. Okay, so the return type is string. Okay, and the class is a remote web element. Okay, so this is a code. Okay, now we'll understand what exactly this code. Okay, so for getting this get ID method, okay, by using get ID method we'll get this hexadecimal, random hexadecimal code representing the element in the session written by the findElement API. Okay, so I had to use this code compulsorily. Okay, and now which is generated by the Appium server. Okay, so coming back here, so now I want to print this one. Okay, I want to print this hexadecimal code. Okay, now what I say, sysout. So what I will do, I will pass this one in a variable. Okay, say this complete value I'll pass it to the variable. Okay, this variable I say element, so we will name as the element underscore id equal to this value. Okay, and we know it is return type is string. Okay, so it is a string. Okay, string, and just check this one. A minute. Yeah, so I need to pass this value here. Okay, I'm passing this element id value here. Okay, and now I will print this one. So now it has to print the element id, which is the hexadecimal code. Okay, that is the first scenario. Okay, first scenario will print the hexadecimal code here. So just say we'll say element id value in the console. Okay, yeah, the same thing. This is the first scenario. I add the comment here, scenario 1. Okay, to fetch the remote, we said okay, to fetch the web element, web id value. Okay, this is the code, and save it and we'll run it. Yeah, so it has to perform the tap on this views, and it has to print the element id also. Okay, so just say run it. So it has to perform the tap and get the element id, and it should be the hexadecimal value. Yes, it has performed the tap on the views. Okay, and we got the element value in the hexadecimal value. Okay, now we'll go open here. Okay, element id. Okay, and now the first scenario we got the element id, which is in the hexadecimal value. Okay, the next scenario is to check whether element id is based upon the session or not. Means if we start once again the session, the element id will change, because the session we are creating new session, right? So element id should be changed, and we verify that the element id of a element will change based upon the session or not. Okay, before that one, what we'll do here, if you go to the Appium server, okay, you can see the session id is there, and you can see the element id. Okay, the element id value will be here. There is a find element here. You have to just check for that one. Abilities, and see the element id. See the element id. Okay, as in our PPT we say, the element id is the representing the element in the session written by the findElement API. Okay, so the same thing is represented here. Okay, this is the element id. Where we have just now seen it, right? Yeah, this is the one. Okay, this is the one. This is the element id. That is a 0076 FFF this is there, just you go here, you can see here the value also. See, this is the element ID. Okay, used to represent the element in the findElement API. Okay, now the second scenario is to check whether the element ID is based upon session or not. Okay, this thing we need to check. So we are seeing the second scenario. Just say comment here. Scenario 2 to check whether this one or not. Okay, we print this one also, this out, and we'll provide this value here. This is the first scenario. Okay, and the second scenario, what I will do for the second scenario, I want to do some necessary changes. I'll comment this one. I comment this code, this complete code, and here I need to check the second scenario. This is out. Just say I provide this value. The second scenario is checking it. The element ID is based upon the session ID or not. That's it. And now what happens if we run once again the element ID? Now the element ID is like this, right? And if we run once again the session, the element ID should be changed. Okay, we'll check that one also. So what for this one we need to write the code. We'll say, so using the same code here, but we need to do the necessary changes. Okay. Okay, and what I will do first, I want to print the I will print this element ID. Okay, so for this one I can say has sysout. Okay, the element ID says generated element ID. Okay, generated element ID. Okay, and this is the one. Okay, just say, okay, this is the generated element ID by the Appium server. Okay, and now what I will do here, this element ID, I will give this element ID instead of this one in the code. I will just copy this one. Okay, this value I'll give it here, and this is a string, right? I'm providing here. Okay, it has to perform the tab based upon this element ID. Okay, and I want the print this element generated one, and this is this one. So what I say here, the element ID, okay, provided one. I said give this as a provided one. Okay, this is the element ID. This is the one. So we'll just compare it here. Okay, this is the provided one. Okay, now what I am doing it simple. I want to check in this scenario whether the element ID is based upon the session or not. Okay, so what for this one, what I did, I have once again I am fetching the element ID which is created by the Appium server. Okay, I am not storing in the element ID and just I am printing it. Okay, and the element ID which in previous run we got it, right? I am just copying from here from the console and pasting here. Okay, and we are just printing this one same. Okay, now I'll run once again. Now it has definitely failed because the element ID will be based upon the session, means the element ID will change. Okay, sorry for this one, we had to move here. Just a minute, I stop this one because I not came back to the views here. Once again run it here. Yeah. Because it has to, script has to fail because we have provided the element ID which from the previous session run. Okay, and you can see the here, see the element ID which is generated in this session. In this session, the element ID, the value is, this is the value. You see the value. If you compare this value, right? See, if you compare this value and this value, you just copy here, and when you compare this value with the provided one, is totally different. Okay. See, this is the value. Okay, so you can observe the difference here. See, previously it is 0076. It is now in this session it is 0094. Okay, 0094. That is why the element ID will be generated based upon the session. For each and every session, the element ID of a element will be generated by the findElement API. Okay, and which is appended in the random hexadecimal code. Okay, so we have proved this one. Okay, and so once again I run it with the same one. I replace this one now. Okay, which is generated one, right? Just replace this one, and once again run it. It's going to definitely fail it because it is a new session created. Okay, just say run. Because now the new session is created, the element ID also will be generated newly. See now, if you copy here and paste here and observe, see, when you observe it here, it is, see, the value is changed here. You see, previously 0094, now it is 00A1. Okay, remaining part is same, but this particular is changing here. Okay, this is about the element ID. Okay, this is a scenario 2. Okay, I just remove this one comment. Okay, this is scenario 1 and scenario 2. In scenario 1, we have fetched the element ID. In scenario 2, we are reusing the previously generated element ID in the session 1, in the previous session, and we are checking that the element ID will be generated for the uniquely for each and every session for the element by using the findElement API. Okay, just do some small change here. So variable I create here. This is a small change. Declaring varying outside the method, that's it. Yeah, that's it, nothing is there. Okay, so this is how we have checked this both scenario. One is the, we understand what is element ID and how to get the element ID. Okay, and we have printed this element ID which is in a hexadecimal value, and we have checked the element ID which is generated based upon the session. Both scenario we covered. Next scenario is, so check the element ID in Appium inspector. It is straightforward. Just go to the Appium inspector and you can see here for each and every element we have the element ID. The attribute is element ID and the value, okay, which is hexadecimal value. So if you check for text, the value will be changed. So I need to wait. I just to refresh it. So I need to quit the session and I need to once again start the session here, because already I have the session override. I did it. So I'm creating a new session here, and you can see the element ID for each and every element. It is okay. In Appium inspector also we get this element ID, but it is based upon the session. Okay, see, just click on element. You can see here we have the attribute called element ID and the value. It is in the hexadecimal value. See, if we compare this value, see, for views only, now it is changed. So views only, it is changed now, value is changed here. So just a minute. So this is the value copy, right? You can just paste it here and you can see the value. This is the value here. See, previously it was 0094, it is 00B1. Okay, so From the APM inspector also we can know the element ID. For each and every element, it will create the element ID. So now if I click a text for the element, for this element also we have the separate value for the element ID, which is created by the findElement API. Okay, findElement API is responsible to create the random hexadecimal code representing the element in the session. Okay, written by the APM, by the findElement API. Okay, this is all about the element ID, which we use as a mandatory argument in our W3C mobile gestures API. Okay, if you like this video, please click on like button, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.